A little bit, please. He told me not to use this mic, but I listened to him as well as he listened to me. Brother Doug, would you open us in a word of prayer, please, and remember the preacher?
Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we do love you. We thank you for the blessings, Father, you've already given to us, Lord. And Lord, we pray now that you open your word and study, Father. I just pray that you'll give Brother Jeremy the words that we need, Father, and that we'll be able to apply them to our lives, Father, but not just apply them to our lives, Father, but be able to share them with others, Father. We pray that everything that happens here today, Father, will draw us closer to you, Father. We also pray if there's any souls here today that don't know you as their personal Savior, Father, that today would be the day of salvation, Lord. Lord, we also want to lift Brother Steve up to you, Father, as he's in the hospital. We know you are the great physician, Father. We know that you are capable of healing, Lord. And Lord, we pray you'll be with the doctors as they're diagnosing and trying to figure out what's going on, Father. But we also pray that you'll just put a host of heavenly angels about Brother Steve. Give him peace and comfort as him and Miss Jeremy are both up there, Father. And we just pray all these things in Christ's most precious and holy name. Amen.
I really was hoping Melissa was going to be here because I was going to start this way by asking her where she thinks we're at. We are back in Colossians chapter 1. We're going to look at verses 1 through 4. 5 weeks ago, we kind of dropped anchor right here, which I try not to do, but we took a little sightseeing trip. That trip started with the fact that Paul has a pattern in his epistles of teaching identity before he starts rolling out behavior. And that's exactly where we were in this passage. So we spent some time before moving on in the passage, Brother Doug, to just point that out because it's very important. And what that did is it exposed a problem. That problem is that we tend to think of ourselves like grasshoppers, if we use the illustration from Exodus, or sinners. I mean, it's almost the required testimony. I'm just a sinner. Well, that is, yes, it's our struggle. That testimony really should be, I am saved by grace. My identity is I'm joint heirs with Christ. My identity is I'm adopted. I'm beloved. I can't lose that. I am welcome at the table. That is my identity, but too often we live in the grave. And so that's the problem. Now, the answer to that, Paul gives in chapters 1 and 2. It's the gospel. This is not who you are anymore. But that exposed another problem. Even though we are made alive, which we're going to read that verse here in a minute, even though we are made alive, we need to be renewed in our mind. Because our mind is conditioned to respond to things just like the old man does. And that has to be cleaned. That has to be washed by the water of the word. That has to be changed. Okay, there's an old famous experiment. I think it's from 1904. It's by a guy named Pavlov. And sometimes you'll hear Pavlov's Nobel Prize winning experiment. Well, Pavlov did win the Nobel Prize. This is one of those things that happens when people say it. I sit back there and go, I can't help it. Pavlov did win the Nobel Prize, but not for this experiment. But this is the one he's probably most famous for. And I'm going to say it. You've probably heard it used as an illustration. Pavlov rang a bell. And when he rang a bell, he fed the dogs. And he continued to do this until the dogs were conditioned to every time they heard a bell, they thought food was coming. Then they started ringing the bell and no food. And Miss Gonzalez, there was this strange thing that happened. Even though there was no food in the bowl, they were drooling. And they were developing digestion. It was increasing. They had been conditioned to bell equals food. And here's the problem. You and I are conditioned to act like the sinful man. And that has to change because that's not who we are. Okay? And so we spent some time looking at renewing the mind. And then last week, we talked about this, the incredible power of speech to renew the mind. And and I don't often do this, and we're not going to spend much time because we really do have a lot to get onto. But Jade, we left 2 verses out last week. First is Hebrews chapter 11. And I'm just going to bring this to a quick conclusion, all right? So, and it actually was great. Mike jumped right onto these passages on Sunday night. I don't know if you remember that, or maybe you weren't in Sunday school, you didn't know that, but Brother Dougie took right off from here. So it made me feel even worse that I didn't get there. But, because there's probably something I added I didn't need to, and we would have got there. But the conclusion, Ms. Gonzalez, the conclusion is, speech has this power of life and death. Speech can destroy, or speech can start the process of renewing the mind. It's that important. And how important? Well, go to Hebrews chapter 11. And if you go to Hebrews chapter 11, there are some awesome things in there. By faith Moses, by faith Noah, by faith Abraham. Okay, all of these wonderful, miraculous works. But I want you to see what these 2 people are in there for. Okay, they're in the chain. They're in the list of, this is the Hall of Fame, the Faith Hall of Fame, right? Doug, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I don't want you to ever forget it. Okay, notice what they're in there. By faith, Isaac. Okay, what's Isaac in there for? Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. How important is it that we use our speech to bless other people? By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. That's what he's in there for. He's in the Hall of Fame because his speech called others to renew their mind. He spoke God into their life. Okay, give me the next one. He's not the only one. By faith, Jacob, when he was a dying, must be from Sephner, blessed both the sons of Joseph. What's he in there for? He's in there because he spoke God into their lives. Matt, that's how important it is. And we usually don't give it that much attention. Now, what does it mean to bless someone? So, remember I said we're not going to spend a lot of time? Give me those verses in Numbers, please, ma'am. Aaron is being taught to bless. Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel. So, Kent, when we talk about blessing others' lives, speaking God into others' lives, this is what tell Aaron, this is how it looks. This is what he's supposed to say. This is what you're trying to accomplish. That's what this is. On this wise, this is how you do it. Okay? On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. This is what I want you to understand in your life. God is for you. God is full of grace in your life. God is looking at your life. You don't have to hide anything. Understand this. Your life exists in God. No God, no life. Sounds like all that identity talk, doesn't it? Paul spent 2 chapters doing the same thing. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. This is what, Aaron, this is what I want you to do. Aaron's sons, this is what you're supposed to do. You put God's name in their heart, in their life, and God brings the blessing. You know, this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we do to each other. This is what we do with our spouses, what we do with our children. This is who we are supposed to be. Okay, so we spent some time looking at this. We just didn't get that far. And we just stayed there for a while. Now, Brother Doug, I don't want to do that. We've got 25 minutes. So what I want to do is get back to the chapter, pick up anchor, and kind of set the stage to move forward in this chapter. When we get to this chapter 3, verses 1 through 4, it's full of doctrine. Ben, this could be 5 weeks. Well, it's already been 3 or maybe 4. I don't know. I didn't go back and count. Again, if Miss Melissa was here, I'd ask her. But it's been a while, and I don't want to spend 5 more. So we're going to try to just pull it together quickly and use some illustrations because it is that important, and then be able to move forward next week. But if ye then be risen with Christ. And we spent most of our time just based upon the next phrase and verse 2. But if ye then be risen with Christ, and this begins to paint the picture for us of every Christian has a history, okay? And it has been said that Americans know what happened yesterday more than anybody in the rest of the world. And that may be true because, all the social media and all the posts and bings and wings and everything, just look at me, read me. But it is also said, Matt, that we know nothing of 10 years ago. We don't know history at all, and that's sad, but probably true. So I wonder if that's true spiritually too. We live so much in what's happening yesterday or what we're afraid of tomorrow that we don't live in light of the gospel. Now, when I say we don't live in the history, well, sometimes we do. We live in the bad history. We still live in the grave. We keep going back there. Okay, we're not supposed to do that, and we're going to look at that here in a few minutes, hopefully. But we do need to live in the light of who we were and what was done, because, Brother Kevin, that tells us who we are. Okay? And so he starts out right here with the fact that every Christian has a spiritual history. How do you know that? Because you're now risen. The only way you're risen is if you were dead. Okay, so at some point you were dead. And, all the verses we've looked at, you were dead, but now you're a new creation. You're a totally new thing. Ephesians, you used to walk in death. You used to walk according to the prince of the power of this air. You used to be on Satan's side. This is who you were. But God hath quickened you, hath made you alive. And all of that is wrapped up right here in this phrase, beginning of chapter 3, because he's referencing everything that he's talked about in chapters 1 and chapter 2. You were dead, but now you're alive. This is who you are, okay? But then keep going. If you then being risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, because this is who you are, this is what you should do. We'll come back to that. Where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above and not on things of earth. Here, verse 3. I want you to look at this because this is confusing. All right. Verse 1, Brother Kevin, if ye then be risen, so you are now alive, right? Well, look at verse 3. For you are dead. But you're alive, well, you're dead. And your life is hid with Christ in God. How does all this come together? Well, remember this, that death really is just a picture of separation. Brother Doug, someday I'm going to die. I'm going to physically die, barring the rapture. I'm going to die. When that happens, it just means I'm separated from this physical world. I'm not dead. I'm just separated, okay? This death, this is who you were. Obviously, you were breathing, but you were dead. You were separated from the life which is God. And there is no life apart from God. Okay? Full of doctrine, which is why we can't skip over it. It's foundational. You were dead, obviously breathing, but you were separated. And there was nothing you could do to go over that gulf. So, gospel made you alive. Now you're alive, but you're dead. Well, what you're dead to is you're dead to the old man. Romans chapter 6, great illustration of this, and it'll keep me going. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? No way, Jose. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Already, he's identifying who we are. We're those who are dead to sin. Okay. I love this passage. Know ye not that so many of us, as were baptized into Jesus Christ, were baptized into his death? Okay. We, at salvation, identify with Christ. We identify with Christ on the cross. What happened on the cross? He died. He paid the sacrifice. At that point, the penalty for us is paid. Because, Brother Doug, we are now identified with Christ. He died for you, for me. We say that, right? Well, what happened is we died with him. We identified. We were baptized into that death. Therefore, we are buried with him. Jeremy, you're stretching it. No, we're buried with him. At salvation, our old man is buried with him by baptism into death. That like as Christ was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in the newness of life. A brand new thing, made alive, quickened, risen with Christ. For if we have been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall also be in the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified, died with him. At that time, that point, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. That's the result. For he that is dead is freed from sin. This is who we are. Now, if we be dead with Christ, we believe that we shall also live with him. Put that verse in. Why? Because you're going to see that's exactly what he's talking about in this passage. That's Colossians chapter 3, verse 4. This is why we can be different. Death to the old man. He's about to tell us to mortify, to put off. Okay, Doug, the reason we can do that is because of who we are. We couldn't do that before. In our past, we were dead. He made us alive. Now that we're made alive, sin no longer controls us. It no longer has dominion. Yes, we naturally are conditioned to respond like the old man. So what happens is we need to be renewed so that that's no longer leading us. So that we're no longer just stepping in the path. Now, in this process, one of the things that makes it so hard is when we're down, when we're weak, when we're struggling. You may not get there, but I do, so just go along with me. That is when Satan comes up and he says things like, I looked at the clock, right? It's when he says things like, remember the leaks? What are you talking about, Jimmy? Oh, that's what he told the Exodus. Remember the leaks back there in Egypt? We had it so good back then. That's what he says. Remember back when you were dead? People liked you. You were fun. You went to parties. That's what he says. Until you say, oh, I gave up so much to serve Jesus. Praise God, I'm still here. What he doesn't remind you is you puked your guts out. You were broke. You had no hope. Nobody liked you. They had to be drunk to be around you. He doesn't remind you of any of those things. He just begins to paint the picture of how much you gave up, how much you're the good one, how much you're struggling, how much, Eve, God's keeping from you. And so, for Doug, sometimes that makes us stay in the path that we feel comfortable with. Or other times, he comes up and it's exactly the opposite. When we're down, he says, Brother Wayne, you're just a sinner. This is impossible. You'll never be able to do it. Why do you even try? Just give up. Okay. Which the truth is, you'll never be able to do it. You know what? But he can. And that's why he came and he lives inside of you and he changed your identity and he made you a whole brand new thing. But you have to live in that. So, this is where we've spent some time. This is why you can't run over it. Now, this is what I'd like to do. It is very important. And what I'm going to do is just throw out, I'm not comfortable doing this, so I'm just going to throw out and use 7 different illustrations, or 5 or 4, or wherever the clock goes, because I think it's easier for us to remember illustrations. But Ben, the next time I'm struggling, I need you to remind me of these illustrations. Okay, that's what we do when we bless each other. Okay, so here's where we go. So if ye then be risen, but it's such a struggle, right, Jeremy? I know you said, and we read, and I know these things, and I can quote those verses. Okay, but Paul uses this illustration. He says your body is just a tent. Okay, you're going to change it in. You're going to get a real body someday. I want you to think about your body as a home. Okay, and at salvation, At salvation, what happened, Brother Glenn? You moved. You have a new home. It's a new place. You have a new residence. Okay, so what I understand is your mail may go to there for a few days, okay? A few days. But you fixed that, right? You don't keep your mail going there. Okay, it changes. You have a new residence. And I understand a couple times you may take the wrong turn because you've taken that turn you're conditioned to turn right at this light. But sooner or later, you quit going that way and you start going to your home, right? You have to make that change. You have to live in light that you moved. Too many times we're comfortable with the old home. Why do we get a new home? Well, because that one was broken down and it needed everything fixed, and we didn't like the neighbors, and the street was a mess, and the city wasn't fixing it, so we got a new one. So now we have a brand new home where everything's fixed and everything's wonderful, but Matt, we keep turning left. Preacher would like it better. We keep turning left because we're comfortable in the old neighborhood. You got to quit going to the old neighborhood. Okay? Nothing changes. The mind doesn't start to be renewed if we continue to live in the old neighborhood. Now, 3 verse 3. For ye are dead. Okay. And we talked about the old man. And this is a wonderful. Doug, picture a credit card. Huge balance. Yep, that's an ugly face. You know what? You can't get away from that, right? Especially with today's interest rates and revolving credit. This is why if I win the lottery, first thing we do is pay off our credit cards. That they have that much control is a problem. But Matt, huge credit. Well, you know what happens when someone dies? That credit is frozen. Listen, nothing more can be applied to that account. It's gone. Ms. Gonzalez. I will mess up today, probably already have, will in the next 10 minutes. I will tomorrow. I will the next day. I don't want to. Does damage every time, sometimes to me, sometimes to others. I don't want to, but it will happen. But I can live in the light of it is never applied to my account, because that account was sealed. It was frozen. It's been erased. And that's what he talks about when he talks about the old man is dead. No more struggles. Nothing more applied to the account. You remember that. When he whispers in your ear, you'll never be able to do it. You're just a sinner. I'm just a sinner. But my Father is God. And I live in Christ. Changes things. Okay, it's a viewpoint you must have. Goes on in verse 3. For ye are dead, the account sealed, and our life is hid with Christ. I want you to just stay with the whole little bank thing. Hidden. It's protected. You take things, you put them in a bank, you put them in the safety deposit. I don't know what that's like. I don't have anything to put in the safety deposit bank. Okay, my wife and my kids don't fit in there. But you have a safety deposit bank, a safety deposit box. You put it in the bank. Why? Because there it's hidden away from everywhere and it's protected. But Kevin, I'm in Christ. I am protected. I am sealed by something stronger than myself, than anything in creation, by the Creator himself. Nothing can change that. We are claimed by God. Okay? We have to live in light of that. Go on to verse 4. When Christ, Paul just keeps reminding us of things. Okay? He's right back in verse 4. When Christ, don't miss this, who is life, You who are risen, made alive, live in light of the gospel. I pray that they get it. These are all the things we've heard already preceding. In verse 4, he's bringing it back up. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall ye also appear with him in glory. When he is revealed, we'll see his glory in us. We'll see who he's made us. Until we get there, we don't get to see it. I looked for this. I'm not a big Steve McQueen fan. We have any Steve McQueen fans in here? Because you would probably know the movie. Okay, I looked for this for a little bit in the middle of the week, and then I forgot. And I'm not a big Steve McQueen fan, but I do remember watching this movie. And in it, Steve McQueen is smarter than the cops. Shocker. And so he's playing with the police, and he's teasing them, and the whole thing is going through there. And he's a thief. And so what he does is he goes in and he steals a painting. The original is up on the wall. I mean, the original is back being cleaned up. They switch it out every once in a while. And a fake is up on the wall. And he goes and he steals the original. And he replaces it with the fake. Well, no one knows this. So he has the original. Okay, and then what he does, Matt, is he has somebody paint over the original. So now you can't see what's behind it. Okay, and again, he's just playing with the police. They know he's a thief. They're trying to catch him. He goes into the museum. He takes this painting, which has been painted over. He swaps it with the one on the wall, and they think they got him. We just saw him steal. And they go through this whole process to try to catch him, and in all the commotion, he actually takes what he really wants. And they get him arrested, and just about the time they're going to open and see what he's taken, a smoke bomb goes off in the museum, gates close, water comes out, and you know what it does? It sprays off what was on the painting, and it reveals what's behind it, the original. What are they going to arrest him for? The picture they thought he took is up on the wall. It's now been revealed, okay? Well, that's kind of us. Satan tries to paint over us. We don't see the original that's behind. But there's coming a day that it's going to be sprayed off. And the glory of God's creation is what we'll see in each other. We have to remember that. Brother Kevin, when you see me today, okay, you see the struggle, you see the pain, you see the scars. You do not see what God has made me. Now, this is important because one day you and I are going to live together in eternity. And you're going to remember, we have our memories. You're going to remember how I treated you. I'm going to remember how you treated me. And we might be neighbors. You say, oh, yeah, but he's going to wipe away all tears. Things will be perfect. And he doesn't wipe away history. What's that going to be like? I don't know. In fact, that's what this passage says. It says we should give some thought to that. Think on things above. We should remember, it should be determining in how we respond and act and treat each other. That's exactly this passage. And that's what it's trying to create. So, Brother Doug, if this is the case, now this sets us up for next week. I got 10 minutes though, so we're not done. So what we need to do, if you look at verse 5, we need to pull out some weeds. Okay? We need to get rid of some things. We need to cast off some things. We need to put aside some things. We need to mortify some things. Some things need to go. But Heather, it's not just enough that some things go. Because if you go to your garden and you just pull out all the weeds, it's still barren unless you plant some things. So the next couple of weeks, some things need to go, and in their place, something else needs to be planted. Okay. This is how you're fruitful. Now, all of this, Brother Kevin, takes effort. Worship takes effort. Obedience takes effort. Really living the life he's given us takes effort. You know what takes no effort? Dying takes no effort. And some of us have taken the life he's given us and we're trying to crucify that life. Which, by the way, in Romans, he said, God forbid. It's not why it's given to us. Oh, I really decided I was going to be nice this morning. I don't know your life. I know my life. And when I study these verses, I just apply them to my life. Mike, this is what I need every day. Now, go back up to verse 2 for 9 minutes. Set your affections on things above, not on things of earth. Because all of this, Mikey, this is who you are, you need to have some intentional thoughts about heaven, about this glory, about the hope that is in you. You see, what happens, Mikey, is when you set your mind on heaven, it becomes easier to live down here. I always heard, don't be so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. All right, there's probably a truth to that sometimes, but I'm going to tell you, if you don't think about heaven, you're no earthly good. Okay. Heaven makes it possible to live down here. It's like when you get on an airplane and the airplane takes off, all the big problems that are down here, they get smaller, they shrink. And when we focus on heaven, all the problems that beat us up shrink. I spent a lot of time trying to get to this. So it popped in my head here. I have children who have season passes. Doug, they used to have season passes to everywhere, which I keep telling them that means they're going to be poor forever. So now they only have limited season passes, but they have season passes. You know, one of the reasons that they like season passes is because when they go, crowds don't stress them out. Lines don't stress them out. Bad weather doesn't stress them out. If I was paying $300 for a day, all three of those things would drive me crazy. I would have no fun. But Brother Kevin, they know they can go back tomorrow. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So it doesn't stress them out. Okay. We have a season pass. Whatever is down here, why do we let it stress us out? The circumstances of today don't matter. We live in tomorrow. We live in eternity. And it's guaranteed. It can't be taken from us. We can't give it away. I have 3 things. We're not going to do all 3 things, and I'm not going to come back here next week. But there are some definite benefits. There are some definite values in our life on meditating on heaven. Luke chapter 12. Jay, did I give you these? I don't even remember now. Luke chapter 12. Here we go. And one of the company said, I really do like this too. Matt, I like this too. This is who we are. Okay, somebody comes to Jesus and they said, somebody died and now my brother won't split the inheritance with me. Fix it. Okay, I'm telling you, I've been in church a long time. Not this church, but other churches. That's how we think. God, fix it. I should be getting more money. And this person in the raise, and this person in this. That's what all we think and take to him is this stuff. Well, here's a perfect illustration. That's why, look, it's not fair. He's not splitting it with me. He's not giving me my share. You would think, Jesus, all the power, all the authority, all the wisdom, fix it, right? Did you jump ahead and read the next verse? Read the next verse. Give me the next verse. And he said, you know who he is, right? Ready? Jesus! And he said unto him, man, who made me a judge or divider over you? Okay, this is as close, Mike, this is as close to not my job as you will ever read in the Bible. Okay, I'll make it sound nicer. Not my responsibility, not why I came, not my purpose. To make your life down here easier and more wealthy. In fact, he goes on to give this parable. Go on. Take heed unto them. He said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. He tells this guy right away, what are you focusing on? What matters to you? Where are you living? Okay, this is such a short little period of time. This is such a big period of time. Is this really what you should be focusing on? You have a chance to talk with God, and this is what you talk to him about. But Kevin, am I stretching this? No, I'm not. I couldn't stretch this far enough. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man. Okay, we know this. Here we go. I'm going to modernize this. Ready? My 401k is doing very well. I have worked hard. I have planned well. I have put up. I have saved. Now I can live the life I always wanted to. Or we go eat, drink, and be merry. Now I get to do all the things. Bucket list time. Woohoo! And then it says, and that night he died. And God looks at him. God calls him a fool. Because all that mattered to you was down here. I'm going to tell you, one of the things that happens when we meditate on heaven is it changes our view of money. But Kevin, we should plan. We should save. We should be wise. We should work. But that is not the most important thing. To be rich in this world, but poor in the next, that is not planning. That is not at all looking at who you are or living in that light. Okay, here's who we are. This is an old illustration, it's about 100 years old. Man is a prince. Mike, he's a prince. You know what that makes him? Very wealthy, great inheritance, important. He gets to play a part. He gets to be an actor. In the play, he plays a pauper. But here's what happens when that curtain comes down and the rags get thrown off. You know who he is? He's a prince. In this life, you are playing a part. You are an actor. Who you really are will not be seen until the curtain comes down. And that's the light we have to live in. Now, I want to go in one more. And I got 3 minutes. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Just go to the next verse. Give me verse 2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Right here, Jesus endured the cross. Why? Because he looked forward to the joy. Matt, one of the things looking at heaven does is it gives us enduring power. It changes everything. I'll give you one illustration, then we're out of time. But pre-internet. Anybody in here pre-internet? Pre-smartphone? Okay, here we go, Matt. You won't know any of this. Okay. But if you were traveling across country, like these days, you look up on the internet, you find out your hotel, you can book it, you can see the stars, you can see pictures, you can see all the things, right? You couldn't do that. Okay. You pretty much went, how far can I travel? Right here, I'm going to get tired. Somewhere between here and here, I'll start looking for a hotel. Or maybe, you always use the same kind. Then you would carry a book this big that would show you, okay, this place is a Motel 6. At this, here you go. And if you left the house and you left the book, then you just travel until you get tired and you go to look. Okay? That's what you had to do before the Democrats gave us the internet. Now tell me how good it is for us. Well, what would happen, and this happened to me lots of times, is you end up in a hotel, you turn, you go down there, and before you get to it, everything's overgrown. It looks like it was made in 1960, and they haven't added any paint to it. And you get inside, and things are falling apart, and the mattress is like an old camp mattress. And this is what you say, I just can't stay here. Until somebody in your party says, Jeremy, it's just one day. Ben, whatever you're going through, it's just one day. In light of eternity, it's just one day. What can't we do? He doesn't ask much. In Corinthians, Paul said, momentary light affliction. It's just one day. Read the list that he endured. We need to live in light of who we are. And all of this matters before we start talking about putting off, putting on, and mortifying. Brother Hank, you close in a word of prayer, please.